Good evening. It's October 5th. It's 7:31. We're in the Brainerd City Council chambers, and we'll start out with roll call.
Hilgard.
Here.
Cope.
Here.
Pritchett. Bevins.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Borkenhagen.
Here.
Sheeler.
Here. And we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to take a moment of silence for Mayor James E. Wallin. Bow your heads and thank you. We'll move on to item number 5, the approval of the agenda. Anybody got any questions on it?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Cope, a second by Bevins. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item number 6 is our consent calendar. This will be noticed to the public. All matters listed are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call. We have a motion.
Move to adopt the consent calendar.
Motion by Bevins, second by Johnson. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Hilgard.
Here. Or yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Pritchett. Bevins.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Borkenhagen.
Yes.
Sheeler.
Yes. That motion carries. Item number 7, this will be council committee reports. We'll start out with the Personnel and Finance Committee report. Item number 1. Go ahead.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is the payment of bills, payment to contractors, and payment of the prepaids, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Cope, a second by Johnson. That'll be roll call. Or would that be not roll call?
You got voice vote on
You got voice vote?
item 1?
That's roll call.
That's roll call.
Yeah, that's always roll
Thank you.
call.
Yep.
Hilgard.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Borkenhagen.
Yes.
Sheeler.
Yes.
Thank you,
motion.
Mr. Chair. Item 2 is item dealing with the 2016 Parks and Recreational Season pay rates, and the motion is to approve the pay rate increases. You saw them identified. One of them, temporary seasonal hourly workers, going from $8 an hour to $9 an hour as of August 1st, 2016, reflects a change in the law on minimum wage. On the others, we have been assured that the increase in tournament rates per team will pay for the increase in the seasonal pay rates, and so I so move.
Second.
Motion by Cope, second by Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Item 3 has to do with the Fire Marshal Deputy Chief position, and the motion is as follows. First of all, to move that we approve the Fire Marshal Deputy Chief job description. Set the 2015 base wage at $5,359.52 per month. That is 75% of the fire chief's base wage. Authorize the necessary funds to conduct the hiring process. Request the Civil Service Commission amend the fire civil service rules to create the position and complete the hiring process as soon as possible. And in the requirements, essential function requirements, to add that there would be a residency requirement, meaning that the person could live no further than 10 minutes away from the fire station. And I move all of those.
Second.
We have a motion by Cope, a second by Johnson. Further discussion?
I don't think it was a requirement, but a preferred, a
Preference.
preference.
qualification.
A desired qualification to be
Desired
within 10
qualification.
minutes.
So that'll be the motion and that'll be the second, right?
That is.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is to authorize staff to spend up to $4,000 for new office furniture, including 5 new office chairs, a desk, 2 keyboards, and to authorize disposal of the current items.
Second.
We have a motion by Cope, a second by Johnson. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, the budget is currently underspent, and so there should be sufficient money in the budget to pay for those items yet this year.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Chip.
Would that include a new chair for our engineer?
Not in this one.
No,
Not in this budget.
administration only.
This is AD
Right.
admin.
We saw his chair today. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Go ahead, Ms.
Thank
Cope.
you, Mr. Chair. The next item is to authorize staff to work with the Clifton Allen Larson, our current accountants, and to authorize them to work with them to perform a complimentary preliminary assessment of our telecom invoices. And
Second.
those are, go ahead, sorry.
We have a motion by Cope, a second by Johnson. Go ahead, Mary.
Those are simply to review our new phone system and other types of technical services to see that we are in fact not being overcharged on any item and to give us any suggestions on additional efficiencies. So there's no cost to this, and in the event that they find things that they feel need further attention, we have the option of either continuing the process or not. So there's no cost to this, and see where it goes.
Sounds like great. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And motion carries.
The next item is to authorize out-of-state travel for our transit coordinator, Andy Stone, to attend the 2015 Route Match Users Conference, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
The money for that is in the training budget within the transit department, and the Route Match is a relatively new component that has been added. There were a few wrinkles, I think, to work out of it. It's certainly, I think it's getting better, but I think the additional training will benefit the efficiency of the process.
I just have one question, Mary. I see there's, less than 2,000, but I'm thinking with flight and rooms and everything, 2,000 just sounds like a cheap trip to fly out there and fly back and spend the room out there.
Well, I think a part of it's being paid for,
Well, just the
Yep.
conference.
Yeah, if I can, it is a conference, but there's no conference fee. So, because we're a licensed user for Route Match, but, airfare, hotel, and meals, we're estimating about 2,000, or it should be under. We think it'll be under.
Okay, thank you.
Airfare to Atlanta, if you get it right, is not that bad.
Busy airport.
Air Trans.
There you go. I got a question. All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last item, we'd like to recommend a date for another budget workshop. And the recommendation would be for November 17th, which is a Tuesday, from 5 to 7 p.m. And perhaps before I make a motion, we could ask if that's agreeable to all of the council. It's a Tuesday. It's would be the third Tuesday of November.
I don't have a conflict with that. Does anybody else?
What was the time again?
5 to 7, Kelly, would that work for you?
I might be 10 minutes late, but that's fine.
Would you like it 5:15?
Yeah, that would be very good.
Okay, then I'll move that we hold a workshop November 17th from 5:15 to 7 p.m.
Thank you.
We have a motion, we have a second. You cut out 15 minutes there.
There you go.
All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion
And that
carries.
completes our report.
Very well done. B is Safety and Public Works Committee. We'll start out with Mr. Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 1 is improvement 13-06, that's 28th Street. The motion is to adopt a resolution declaring the cost to be assessed and setting the public hearing to consider the proposed assessment for 7:30 p.m. October 19, 2015. The total amount of the project is $552,218.12, of which $381,418.19 is city cost, $170,799.93 to be assessed and ISO.
Second.
We have a motion by Bevins, a second by Hilgard. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just an FYI for those of you who keep score, this is not a normal, unusual. We pay half the citizens' behalf, because there are some unusual circumstances with this project regarding the trail, the fact that a large portion of the project is getting sewer or getting gutter and curb for the very first time. So some of the assessment methodologies are more of a hybrid version than what we're used to. This is a 10-year assessment. If you're keeping score, the original thought was around 3 years ago was around $42 per linear foot. Just last spring, we estimated about $52 per linear foot. It had gone up that much over the last 3 years, and actual assessment puts us at about $51.14. So our engineering per linear foot, so our engineering department was pretty darn close.
Oh, great.
Could I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mary.
Is the cost to the property owners is also going up then? From what they originally believed, they were given a preliminary figure at, I think, one of the early hearings.
I can, Mr. President. Yes, about 3 years ago when we started this process, those notices that went to property owners indicated an estimate of about the $42 per foot. But last spring, when we held our preliminary assessment hearing, we had already amended that to about $52 a foot. So actually, the proposed assessment rate is going to be a little bit less than what they were told last spring.
Mr. Chair, could I ask one more question? I think I must have missed something. We talk about ordinarily being 50%, but we have a new methodology and it's not 50%. But I believe there was an email sent out this afternoon that I read, but perhaps not as carefully as I should have. But I thought it identified 50% of the trail would be paid by the resident.
Yes.
All of the curb and gutter?
Yes.
100%. 50% of the road right away.
Construction.
Storm sewer is storm sewer fund. Neither is that included in the city here. The storm sewer assessment.
Yes, the storm sewer cost is included in the city cost.
Our portion that we show here.
Yes.
And of that, the $381,418. That includes the storm sewer.
Yes, it does.
So the storm sewer part would be backed out when it came to, if we did have to bond for it.
Yes. With these final costs being determined, we will work with Connie to have the storm water utility, when there's available funds, to reimburse the construction fund for those costs.
I guess just once more to be clear, because as you know, I'm careful about these bonding projects. Just to be clear, the cost of storm sewer would not be included in any potential bonding.
That's correct.
All right.
Yeah,
I just want to be clear on that.
If I may, we already did bond for this with the
When we did the refunding.
when we did the refunding, and that was based on the estimated assessments with the storm sewer fund picking up the storm sewer cost.
It had taken out the storm sewer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's just wanted the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any further discussion? This will be roll call.
Hilgard,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Pritchard is absent. Bevins,
Yes?
Johnson,
Yes.
Borkenhagen,
Yes.
Sheeler.
Yes, that motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and yet another assessment resolution. Item number 2, and this is regarding downtown special services district. The motion is to adopt a resolution, the attached resolution, declaring the cost to be assessed of $19,475.85 for improvements and $39,250 for nuisance abatement. And setting a public hearing to consider those proposed assessments for 7:30 p.m. October 19, 2015, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Bevins, a second by Chip. Any further discussion? This will be roll call.
Hilgard,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Richard's absent. Bevins,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Borkenhagen,
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes. That motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 3 is an event street closer application for the St. Francis School Marathon. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation and approve the application with the condition that St. Francis notify the Franklin Arts Center of the event as well, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Bevins, second by Hilgard. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Item 4, another event street closure application for the Family Fun Festival. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation and approve the application, subject to the submittal of the required certificate of insurance and traffic control, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Bevins, second by Hilgard. Any further
I have a
discussion? Go
question.
ahead, Mary.
Mr. Chair, I'm supportive of this project, but in reading over the description of activities, there was one part on page 3, second from the bottom, that I was unclear on. It reads, if restrooms are provided by neighboring properties, that would probably mean other stores, businesses in the location, please submit the location and the property owner's signature to verify that approval has been granted. And she X'd in the yes box that said signers, bands, posters, flyers, and said flyers are posted all over town. But there doesn't appear to be an answer or even a proper place for the answer to that question. Unless somebody can tell me what I'm missing.
Mr. Bevins?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. If you go one line item above that where it says restrooms
Yes.
provided, yes. How many? 4. And then it's got a company that's contracted. So I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
Mrs. Pope, and the applicant is here if Mr. Chair desires, but we do have a motion on the floor, and it is part of the application.
As long as I know that
Yep, I understand. It's a good
people are
question.
not going to be angry about it. Okay, thank you.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 5 is a underground storage tank release on city property. This is part of an adjacent property that we purchased for the trail. It's actually not part of the foundry, but it originally was part of that site. And the motion is to accept staff's recommendation that the council authorize submittal of the ownership form indicating our intent to proceed, and then report back when a specific response is requested, and I so.
Motion by Bevins, second by Borgenhagen. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Go ahead.
Thank you. Item number 7 is a sewer backup claim on,
Item number 6.
I'm sorry. Item number 6 is a request to fund a sewer service replacement, 1517 Norwood Street. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation, approve the request with the term of the assessment not to exceed 10 years at an interest rate of 3.9%, the same rate as this year's special assessments, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Bevins, second by Hilgard. Any further discussion? I just have one for Jeff. Have we ever had anybody ever default on these in all these years?
No.
Okay.
Like Ken, we've only been doing these for maybe about 4 years or so, and I think we've only got just a handful, maybe only 2 or 3 people that have done this, but no defaults yet.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 7 is a sewer backup claim at 123 Fifth Avenue Northeast. The motion is to offer up to $500 reimbursement of cleaning costs as long as the property owner signs a waiver of additional claims following standard policies and past practices. And I so move.
We have a motion by Bevins, and a second by Borgenhagen. Any further discussion on this? Mary?
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with this project and with what happened. And very clearly, the property owner was not at fault in any way. It was something that happened that caused him tremendous expense and inconvenience. And my sympathies are with him. But having said that, I don't believe this is an appropriate expense for the city to pay. The city was in no way responsible for this happening. The affected party took the city to court and lost. He understandably lost because there was no evidence that the city had done anything wrong. Consulted with an attorney myself, who was very well known to me, who read all of the city's details, policies, everything. And this attorney assured me that the city was absolutely in the clear. The city had adopted appropriate policies and had followed them. The court found the same thing, obvious, that the city had no blame in this. There is a party that is to blame. And we all know that. A gentleman whose property was very sadly affected knows that. We know that. And that is where the blame lies. And that is where the property owner should be going. In my opinion, he should be taking them to court. Because clearly it was their fault. A grease trap that wasn't properly maintained came into the city sewer, which caused that to back up. So I don't know why it isn't the city's business, really, to try to be good guys. And I would also worry that if he did choose to go after the party that I believe is clearly the one he should be going after, that he may weaken his own case in doing that by accepting some payment from the city. So I think it muddies the waters to his disadvantage. And believe me, I am thinking of him. He had thousands and thousands of dollars of debt. And I think he would weaken a further claim for himself. But additionally, I don't believe the city should do this because the city is in no way responsible, and the court found.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Sue.
Well, I can understand what Mary's position is. It was one that was pretty much echoed by the members of this committee. But the $500 is authorized by the city with no council permission. So it would merely be a reimbursement for cleaning costs that he's entitled to without the council taking action, because the council gave approval for city expenditure up to $500. So all that we recommended was that he follow city protocol and reimburse the property owner for cleaning costs if they submit those receipts. We didn't take the blame. We didn't put the blame on anyone else. We just acknowledged the opportunity to claim for cleaning expense.
Thank you.
I have one
Go
question.
ahead, Gabe.
So if the citizen accepts this $500, does that clear us from any further litigation in this
You want
matter?
to answer that?
That's
Mr.
part of the settlement. Yes.
We've been
We
clear in
request- we
conciliation, but
require
not
that.
in, he has other avenues. Okay.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 8, the Parks Department Gregory Park Fountain. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation and direct them to seek donations and grants to help fund the demolishing and replacement of the existing fountain and other alternatives. And I so move.
Second.
I have a motion by Bevins, a second by Hilgard. I just have one question. This idea of a splash pad, could there be a combination fountain splash pad? I'm just throwing that out there.
That would be other alternatives.
There you go.
It could be a fountain of Gary Sheeter with water squirting out of his ears.
That's the alternative.
That's an alternative that I don't want to see.
Mary,
Mr.
go
Chairman,
ahead.
Let's just be a first step then. I'm concerned too about the cost, which is, huge, and we don't have it. And you can always look for grants, but they're often difficult to come by, or something like that. So this is simply saying we're gonna look for them, but we're making no commitments beyond that.
Correct.
A hard decision may have to be made. Something
Was there a
very possible.
sunset put on this as far as the next discussion?
No, well, I would presume Mr. Saylor will return with information as it becomes available.
Okay.
I would also presume that somewhere along might be a discussion. But these were all premature. At this point, he was just looking at conceptual approval. Can he go after?
I think he should.
Mm-hmm. This might be right up somebody's alley. You don't know. Somebody in the community might. Alderman Borkenhagen had many things to say about the fountain that were very heartfelt and meaningful, and I'm sure his sentiments were not his alone.
So currently, it's not going to be operated. It's going to sit
Right.
there and deteriorate.
Well, it's winter, so
Yeah, I mean-
obviously we have 6
Yeah.
months of doing nothing anyway.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of that motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Pole same sign, that motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 9 is improvement 1408 Southeast 13th Street, which is also County State 8 Highway 45 project. I don't know if, did everybody on the council receive this, Mr. Engineer?
I don't think I had enough for everybody.
Down there.
All right.
Yep.
Do you want to go through everything, Mr. Engineer?
You have extra copies.
We'll have to,
Oh, I can share for now, and we can get more, because we've seen.
No, wait.
No, I'm fine. Me and him will share. We're
Yeah,
okay.
no, we're gonna have you share.
No, we're okay. We're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
if I can, Mr.
Go ahead.
President, sitting here thinking about this a little bit, this would probably be better to be discussed in some sort of a workshop setting, so I'd like to suggest maybe that if the Safety and Public Works Committee is meeting next Monday night with the Planning Commission, that maybe if we could take an extra 20 minutes, either before or after, to go over this in detail and then have some recommendations to come back to the full council at the next meeting?
Perfect. Do you mind if we just give the 5-minute version right now?
Sure.
While everybody's staring at the map. As you all know, 13th Street's being redone by the county, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you might not all know that, but it is being redone. And it's a project that we've actually put off from 2015 to 2016, much to the county's disappointment. But we didn't have the money. What you see in front of you is everything that's black is something where the city's involved, correct, Mr. Engineer?
That's correct.
Various versions of sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and some road work. The total of everything that's black is about $1.1 million. I don't have a breakdown. But just to give you an example, the street of Portland between 13th and 14th is roughly $100,000. Just for that street. And that's one that we've talked about off and on for years and chosen not to do. And the reason it's so expensive is because of the existing road base. All kinds of problems up on Maple Street, primarily with stormwater and diverting stormwater and getting stormwater into our sanitary sewer, which is something we've heard. So, the important thing that we're going to try and come out of this after the 12th is going to be a conceptual approval of what you want to do. I don't mean to cut anybody off. If you have questions of the engineer, he can tell you all about each of these intersections. If you have specific questions, but being that we're not making a recommendation this evening, I highly recommend you either wait until after the 12th when we're more prepared to provide a specifics, or you're absolutely welcome to talk to the engineer. If you have questions, if Mr. Sheeler will allow.
Yeah.
There's going to be no motion on this.
There's
this
no
evening.
motion, that's
But
what
I
I was
wanted to make sure, the important part is that you understand that there's some city expense, some significant city expense involved with this project. And we have to decide whether we want to undertake it now while the county's digging up the road, which certainly makes logistical sense, but at what cost? Over $1 million. One is the approximate estimate. And that's a very rough estimate. So, and the engineering department is looking for, do they move forward with planning this out? Expectations are the county would need some kind of direction by the end of this month, correct? Engineer?
I think they would like to get plans. Our plans are essentially complete, but with some minor tweaks. They would like to get final plans from us, I think by mid to late October, so that they can submit those to MnDOT State Aid for plan review and approval. I think ultimately on their schedule, they would like to get through the approval process by December, so they can be out for bids probably in December or January. Okay. So we have until perhaps the end of the month to get our plans in at the latest.
I have a couple of questions for staff, and then they're going to take this to committee. My first one was, had they looked at, because you just said this is a 30-year, it's going to last 20 to 30 years when you get done with this. Have they looked at the future traffic counts of what that road will be in the preparation for our city to move traffic on there? And especially now with the narrowing of 371, you're going to have much more traffic. That's question number one. I'm not looking for answers. Question number two would be, basically we adopted our complete street program. And is our city picking and choosing which streets we're going to adopt the complete streets? Nothing was ever mentioned, nothing ever was discussed on the street, nothing ever was brought to the council. It was, and I'm just...
I can answer that one, because
Okay.
we did discuss this with the crowning of the road.
Yeah,
and
that
this
part.
went before the council as
Yeah.
a discussion on the bike trail, and it was decided I believe it was a vote of this council,
Yes.
that this street was not going to be appropriate because of the additional expense. The county was all accepting of us if we wanted to pay to have the road base reconfigured to allow the crown to be shifted over and a bike lane to be put on. And I believe the complete streets practices require us to address it, but not to accept it. We don't. And this, to consider it. This street was deemed inappropriate for that type of expense, additional expense. So I didn't want you to think that we weren't.
Well, and I'm looking at all the county roads in our city, and none of them have walkable, bikeable. And this would just put the nail in the coffin on the last street that's going to be done in the last 10 years. They've all been done without it. So I'm just kind of concerned, that we're picking and choosing which streets, and this is a major corridor, so that's fine. But go ahead.
If I can just address your first question about the scope of their project, it's not really a reconstruction where they're building the road from scratch or reconstructing it. The scope of their project is primarily to add a thickness of pavement on the roadway to increase its structural capacity for future traffic. So they plan to mill what would be the shoulders, maybe the outside 6 to 8 feet by the curb lines, and then to do an overlay of the roadway to strengthen the pavement section. So they're really not addressing lane widths or the width of the road or future traffic. It's just to try to get enough structural capacity to get the road to last another 20 years.
Okay.
Essentially a 20-year fix.
Thank you for that.
Just two other questions. There is storm sewer there now, is there not?
Yes.
In all of those areas?
Yes.
And you're talking replacement of some of them?
The primary focus of what we would be doing is replacing the sanitary sewer lines underneath 13th Street. In order to replace some of the sanitary sewers, we will have to take up some of the storm sewer and reset it. And in some of the cases, when we're replacing the sanitary sewer, we're going to have to take out the curb and gutter on the radiuses, which means that we'll have to replace the catch basin grates and castings, that type of thing. So there's going to be some storm sewer that's going to be incidental to the sanitary sewer. Also up on Maple Street, as you'll recall, last year we acquired that property at 412 Southeast 12th Street, and that included the whole northwest quadrant of that block, with the idea being that would help us greatly with correcting a lot of deficiencies we have with our storm sewer system in that area. And so included in this project is that corrective work on the storm sewer system that would be constructing a pond on the property that we acquired, redoing some of the plumbing coming into it from the 42-inch on Maple Street, and then correcting or kind of reshaping the ditch and doing realigning the way it's flowing so that we can get that stormwater directed into the system going north. The total cost of that storm sewer system was not really anticipated last year when we talked about this project, but those corrections are up about $190,000. So that's adding quite a bit to this project. And as we talked about in committee, that is something that is absolutely a necessary project, but it's not really tied to the 13th Street project. So it doesn't necessarily have to be part of this project with the county. It could be a set-aside project that could be done under a separate contract or even put off a year if necessary.
And is this meeting next Monday night just for the Safety and Public Works or for all of the council?
That's item number 10. He'll get to that.
No, I meant the special one you've just now set.
The one that, it has been set, I think,
workshop,
already,
sir.
and that was the joint meeting with the Planning Commission and Safety and Public Works Committee, but all council members are certainly welcome.
Works for me.
That answers all the questions on that one, and we'll move on to the next one, Mr. Bevins.
Thank you. Item 10, of course, is that meeting, which we tentatively scheduled with Planning and Zoning for 6 p.m. Monday the 12th, down in the conference room. Now, how much time are we looking at, Mr. Osgarden? Just for Planning and Zoning?
I would hope that we would talk about an hour's worth of discussion, I would imagine, on the parking issue.
Mr. Engineer, if we meet at 5:15, does that give us enough time?
I think in 45 minutes we can go through the project and very
Okay.
thoroughly, yes.
And for FYI, planning and zoning and SP&W will meet at 6 p.m. For roughly an hour to discuss, and that, as you recall, will be the discussion requirements for off-street parking. And we will also then meet prior to that at 5:15, also in the conference room, to go into more detail on the 13th Street. Okay. End of report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Item number 8, we'll go to unfinished business. We're going to have a public hearing for post-award hearing relating to BTD wood powder coating. And let me just read this. The notice of the public hearing for post-award hearing. Notice is hereby given that the City Council, the Council of the City of Brainerd, Crow Wing County, will hold a public hearing on October 5th at 7:30, which we're going to now open it up at 8:10. So we're here for the public hearing for the BTD wood powder coating. And the public hearing is here, open now at 8:10. Is anybody here for the public hearing? One? Twice? We'll close the public hearing at 8:10 and a half. And open for a motion.
There's no motion.
There's no
There's no
motion.
motion on this?
Public
It's just,
The public hearing was just notification as a state grant requirement. There was a federal grant that we got.
Okay.
And as one of the requirements, we have to hold the public hearing, letting them know that the grant has been completed, that they have repaid it, and it's in our revolving loan fund. That's all that we needed.
Thank you, well done. We'll go to 8B, this will be call for applicants. We've got some people in the audience. The applicants would be Cable TV Advisory Committee. There's 2 terms to expire on 12/31/2016 and 12/31/2017. Charter Commission, 2 terms to expire on 12/31/2018. Keep that in your mind, the Charter Commission. We're going to go back to that here shortly. Brainerd Public Library Board, 1 term to expire on 12/31/2019. The Walkable Bikeable City Committee ad hoc. Is there 1 position?
Oh, I think there's about 3.
3 positions open on that. So we'll put that in here, that there's 3 positions there. We'll go to item number 9, new business. The first one is 9A. This will be a first reading. This will be a proposed ordinance number 1440, amending section 122.21 of the Brainerd City Code pertaining to on-sale liquor zones and license limitations. And go ahead, Mr. Bevins.
Mr. Chair, I move the first reading of proposed ordinance number 1440.
Second.
I have a motion by Bevins, a second by Johnson. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item number 9B, Charter Commission set date for meeting. I asked to have this put on here, and Mr. Bevins will jump in and help, but there was a commissioner, J.D. Burns, that sent me a memo and said that he's on the commission, and he just said that, you know, per the statute, that we should be meeting once a year. We haven't had a meeting for a while, and we're lacking some members here. That's why I looked up and saw there's 2 terms to expire. I don't think we have a quorum, so I think, you know, just we'll have discussion here if we can figure out how to get a quorum and have a meeting for statute. And then also, if there's some ideas that could be brought to the Charter Commission, like, you know, removing the horse and buggy stuff and kind of cleaning it up. There's some real old stuff in there, but I think it should draw interest, and we should set something up and kind of go over it. If somebody's ever looked at it, it's really outdated. And go ahead, Mr. Bevins, if you want to add. I mean, you're the
As the representative to the from the council to the Charter Commission, I agree. I believe it's part of the charter that we do. My recommendation would be to meet as participants. Obviously, we don't have enough to get together and say we don't have enough to satisfy the meeting requirement. So hopefully we'll get some as soon as that allows. I might disagree with you, Mr. Chair, regarding cleaning up.
Okay, go ahead.
I happen to be a huge fan of our charter, having served on the Charter Commission for a number of years. And I find it one of the most readable and usable documents that I've ever read, and especially one that has come from government. And so, while there might be some stuff in there that is not applicable, the charter is not meant to be changed easily, nor to be carelessly discharged regarding its changes. And so, if there was something in there that is completely irrelevant, I understand. But we've really only had a couple of charter amendments since I've been on the council, and I might argue to keep it that way. So, certainly if there's one that is pertinent, I think the Charter Commission should take up all.
I want to jump in, and I appreciate what you said, and I'm hoping that me and you, with our discussion, got people interested to see who's right on that one. But one of the things, I want to bring up is it takes all 7 members of the, to change anything in the charter, and we all have to agree. And on the hiring of Eric and to have him come to all the council meetings, actually there was 6 council members in favor of it, and I wasn't. And just because I wasn't, Eric is at the meetings. So that's how powerful that the charter is, and the council is with the charter, just to let you know. So it takes all 7 of us. Go ahead.
Mr. President, and Councilman Bevins, I'm a new student of city charters, particularly the city of Brainerd. As I reviewed it, looking at certain aspects that are applicable to events that are happening today or shortly will, I came upon some language that truly is dated. And I know the powerful tool that a charter is and can be. And there wouldn't be any intention on my part as your administrator to alter or change those powers, if you will. But I find it difficult to read a document and make it relevant to 2015 when it makes reference to the city operating a prison. And that's one example. So there are some of the cleanup things that I think probably maybe even I yield to council, but may even be well contrary to current state law. So it would be that type of a cleanup. I think the powers that are there very carefully need to be measured before anything goes forward, whether it be to the full council or to a vote of the citizens.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add to that? Otherwise, we'll move on. Hopefully, we can get a meeting soon. We'll move to, let's see, 10, Planning Commission. The first one, 10A, is first reading. This is a proposed ordinance number 1441, amending Brainerd zoning ordinance section 515-24-5 to allow shipping containers by interim use permit in B4 general commercial districts and a mixed use district. And you want to add anything, Mr. Oscar, to this?
Does the city council care to have any background on why this is here?
Yes.
From time to time over the years, the planning department has received calls inquiring about whether or not shipping containers can be used in the city of Brainerd. And requests have come from areas outside of industrial districts. We allow them to be used in the industrial district, but that's all. So over time, having some requests to use the shipping containers, the planning department brought this to this planning commission and asked them, do you think under certain circumstances that shipping containers could be permitted in other districts in the city of Brainerd, primarily commercial, in the B4 and in the mixed-use district. Not in the B1, B2, or B3, but in the B4 general commercial and mixed-use district as well. And they said, well, it's an idea worth considering. Go ahead and let's take a look at it, do some research on it, see if there can be some language drafted that if it's going to be allowed, we can have control over it, and let's take a look at it. The appropriate tool that was thought to be used would be the interim use permit. Interim use permits are designed to be used only for the use that it's granted for. It's not like a conditional use permit that would run with the property. And also, what the Planning Commission found was, under certain circumstances with the right conditions and the right reviews, shipping containers could be compatible in additional zoning districts. And that's their recommendation, and what they came to in a conclusion that, yes, they can be unsightly, they can get rusty, they can get graffiti on them, they could be used for items that weren't intended to be used for, items could pile up around them. There's a whole bunch of potential downsides to this if it's not controlled. But they felt that if with the conditions that are listed in here, 1 through 10, primarily that if it's conditions on placement of the structure were important, the ability to screen the structure completely, either with a fence or a wall that would equal the height of the shipping container was very important. That they limit how the shipping container can be used for storing items and what the shipping container can be used for. It can't be used for office purpose or something like that. And ultimately, the ability to allow the shipping container would be controlled through the interim use permit process, meaning the Planning Commission would receive a site plan. They'd go over that with the property owner. These minimum requirements would apply. Other conditions as necessary could be used if appropriate. And then ultimately that interim use permit is one that the City Council would grant. So that's how we got to where we are today. So
I have one question. How many containers can somebody put on their property? Can they just do like a train, just, as soon as they fill one up, then back up another one?
With it.
well, I guess as long as as long as either they're hidden from view or screened. If they have room for 3 or 4, I guess the way this is worded, they could have 3 or 4. The council has the authority at this point in time to say, all right, if we're going to allow these shipping containers, no more than 1 per property. You have that authority. So to answer your question, it's more than 1 right now.
Is there any fees or permit fees or an application in the fee process for you to inspect, like we do with buildings? Because all those fees cover our costs. Are we eliminating somebody putting up a addition on their building and saying, instead of going through all those fees, all the hassles, footings and all that, just start dropping some containers off and I could save a bundle of money?
Well, like I say, if you feel it's necessary to limit the number on a property, you have that authority. And if that's a concern for you, we should probably have a discussion about limiting the number. I think that if some business wanted to get around our code requirements for putting up a building, if they wanted to bring in a dozen shipping containers and put them side by side and put a 8-foot fence around them and use them only for what they're allowed to be doing, this language would allow that to happen.
I have a problem with that.
Like I said, you have the authority to limit the number of them on a property.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What are they? I'm trying to figure out what we're talking about. Are we talking about something like, it looks like a freight car, or what do they look like?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
I gave you a picture of one.
Without wheels.
Okay.
Yeah, the metal 8 by 20.
Okay.
Generally, what you find underneath them is your rabbits, your woodchucks, and everything else, because they don't have footings, and they can burrow underneath, and usually that's where the grass is mowed, and gives most of the rodents a place to hide. And that's what I've seen on the ones I've seen out there. And I think it's an eyesore to the community, but
What do they ship? What do they use? What do they put in them to ship?
Everything.
Well, they would bring them onto their property and place them there. For example, if they were short of storage space, and a shipping container would meet that need, they could use it for storage.
So they wouldn't use them for shipping things?
no.
No.
They'd use them for other purposes?
Like little sheds.
Storage primarily.
They're, the length of them are what, 40-some feet? 20?
Not that long.
And then do you have, pardon me?
They vary.
Have you seen
But they're usually 40 by 12, 12 by
You're
40?
kidding.
12 by 40 by 8.
12 by 40 by 8, okay.
This wouldn't be allowed.
They are an eyesore,
That's why the screen.
and they really can hurt people that, spend a lot of money on their business property. Somebody next door doing this could bring the value down. And,
With all due respect, this is not my proposal.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
the planning
yeah,
commission.
I'm just talking out loud here.
Has there been a request, Mr. Chair? I mean, what brought this to us?
Well, one of the functions of the planning commission is to deal with issues that come up over time. If you receive a number of requests about a particular type of use over time, you want to bring that to the planning commission to see if it's a use that we should consider allowing. If we
But
don't
did you
allow it
get
already.
those requests?
Pardon me?
Have you had requests?
Like I said, over the years, I've had several requests of people interested in using shipping containers in areas outside of the industrial districts.
I would like to see it as a case-by-case basis and brought it that way versus just opening up the doors right now and then, but I mean, that's my personal feeling. I meant,
It's your prerogative.
okay. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Bevins.
I'm going to
throw it out there and let's see what happens. Mr. Chair, may I make
Yes.
a motion
Go ahead.
on this?
Yep.
I move to hold the first reading of proposed ordinance number 1.
Second.
Chair,
Yes.
just very briefly, I want to hear the public. I don't think I'll vote for it, but I'd like to hear the
I have a motion by Bevins, a second by Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, I'm gonna be a no on that. 10B, variances for accessory buildings, garage size and setback at 1024 12th Street Southeast. You wanna take that, Mr. Ostergaard?
Yes, sir. The Hawaiis live on a corner lot in southeast Brainerd, and they currently have a garage that they're planning to demolish and would like to construct a new garage, 784 square feet, that would be 84 square feet larger than would be permitted on the lot. They're also interested in placing the garage 12 feet from the side street property line where a 20-foot setback is required. The Planning Commission has reviewed this variance request and has recommended approval of the variance request based on a number of findings of fact. A couple of significant ones is that in taking a look at the neighborhood, there are quite a few other accessory buildings in the neighborhood that exceed the maximum allowed garage size limit. In fact, some would be larger than this garage. In fact, the one across the alley is over 800 square feet, I believe. And also, as far as the setback of the garage, the 12-foot setback, that's to the property line, not to the curb. Chicago Street is about Chicago Avenue is about a 4-block long street that dead ends at both segments, or dead ends at both ends. And the potential for extending Chicago Street is basically nil because of wetlands and other land uses. So sidewalk probably isn't going to be possible, or wouldn't receive high priority if sidewalk were going to be installed in that section of Chicago. So parking a car on the property and on the boulevard should not create a problem for being out on the street. So the Planning Commission has recommended approval of these variances.
I asked you a question earlier, the definition of a variance, and I looked it up online, and and I was on the Planning Commission for 6 years, and the word hardship, and the burden of proof was on whoever brought it to us. And then I didn't see the hardship, but then you said that has changed.
Oh, yes.
They have taken the word hardship out of it,
Yes, that was
because
done
I'm
by-
still old school here, and, this would be a definite no in the old school days. So that's why I had asked the question, but on your site, it still says hardship, so you're
Well,
gonna
the
change it.
definition, yeah.
Yeah, the
It's
definition
moot.
of it.
It's moot because it's been removed, so.
The other question I have is, even if we're doing this, we're allowing a pretty good sized structure. I mean, mine is pretty large, and it's 600 or 528 square feet garage. And, to go to 780, and I'm still looking at, I know they changed the word hardship, but then they have another word that you have to, I just think it's just huge, so, I have a little bit of a problem with the size of it.
Look at it from the standpoint of not 784 square feet. Look at it as 84 square feet larger than what's allowed.
Okay. Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think it's going to really be an improvement, so.
Yep.
I'm going to move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Pope, a second by Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Pose same sign, that motion carries. Item number 11, this will be public forum. Time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the council. Time limits may be imposed. What we'll do is probably try to hold them between that 3 and 4 minute, and if you got, just raise your hand. We always state your name and your address.
William Durham,
Go ahead, Will.
Oak Lawn Township, one of the supervisors on the board out there, actually. First, just let me say, express my sympathies for the loss of your mayor. It was kind of a shock to read that in the paper myself, of course, so just wanted to say that. Main thing, you finally got me up here, by the way, after 2 years, you finally got me up here at Open Forum, but I was just a little bit disappointed to read about the vote in the paper on the fire department here a couple weeks ago, basically laying off the full-time employees, and the reason for that was we had just had a fire advisory board meeting shortly before that. There was 3 city officials there. Nobody, I mean, the townships were talking about it, bringing it back to their boards, the restructuring plan, of course, and 5 days later we read about it in the paper that it's already done. So what was the point? I guess I was just, to read that there, I just thought I was just disappointed in that, I guess, because we didn't get a chance to come back to our respective boards and bring that back. And of course, you were, like I said, the 3 city officials were there, and no one mentioned that, hey, we can't wait that long, we have to do this now. It would have been, I guess, I thought somebody could have said something about that. But, and I never really heard any clamoring for the people that were there at the fire advisory board meeting to do this. I mean, we just got in the proposal, looked at it, saw the numbers, bring it back, discuss it with our respective boards, and then nobody really was raising their hand saying, yeah, we got to do this right now. They wanted to talk to their boards and their residents and then bring that back. So I guess that part of it there. And now I hear that the last day of the full-time employees is going to be the 15th. That'll be before the next fire advisory board meeting, so we won't weigh in on any of it then. It's already done.
Can I ask a question? Who's the representative for Oakland Township at the meeting?
Carol Cloud.
Okay,
She's not a supervisor on the board.
okay. Thank you.
So that's why one of the reasons why she wanted to bring it back, of course. And of course, when you've got one supervisor that represents the position at the fire advisory board meeting, something that big, they probably want to bring it back to the full board.
Can I interrupt here?
Yeah,
Just
go ahead.
For clarity. In August, there was a meeting.
Yes, I was there too.
And then from that meeting, they were going to go out 3 months. And I said, we are not going to go out 3 months with the decision. We need a meeting sooner. And then everybody said, when? And we said, within a month. Come back within a month and we're going to vote. And at that meeting, they were supposed to vote up or down, which way they were going to go. And then we got the normal, we need more time, we need more time. That meeting in September was specific only for you guys to vote. Was not for more time, more information. The information was all given to you in August.
Right. We weren't necessarily looking for more information. In August, though, we were waiting to find out what the long-term capital plan was. And that's the numbers that Mr. Holmes, of course, did not have until September. And it's still kind of a big deal because, whatever, I guess I don't remember all that part of it there as far as insisting on a vote to yes or no in September. But and then the only thing, one of the things that I thought of in this was that the cost we're now paying is going to basically, the restructuring budget that I saw, the cost is going to be the same whether, the cost is going to be, with the restructuring plan, the proposal that we were presented, the cost is going to be the same with the capital improvement, the laying off the full-timers, trying to save some money, using that money to capital for purchasing new equipment, in other words, capital purchases. That cost is going to essentially be the same. When I thought about that afterwards, I was like, well, wait a minute. Now we're paying the same price now for a paid-on-call department where we were paying for a full-time department before. Granted, it had issues with the capital and that part of it there. But I thought, well, where's the incentive then for staying with Brainerd in some ways? You've just now made it the same paid-on-call department as everybody else around the area. And for more money. I mean, for more money than anybody else in the area. That was just one thing that I observed anyway. However, I do have no doubt that Mr. Holmes, the council, the firefighters, the paid-on-call people will make it work to the best they can. They'll make a paid-on-call department work the best they can. I have no doubt about that. But I do think there are going to be issues.
Can I ask you, are you representing Oakland Township or are you representing yourself?
I'm speaking for myself.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I'm like any other supervisor on the board. I can come up here and say what I want. Yep. We haven't had our meeting yet, so we can't put together a formal response anyway because we don't have our meeting till tomorrow, and yet this will all be done, and has been done since before we could even meet to talk about it. So that's why I'm here, I guess. But one thing that I like I said, the response time on there, I don't know how I don't care how you slice it or dice it. In my estimation, anyway, unless I hear differently, when only 5 of your paid-on-call people, approximately 5 of your paid-on-call people live within the core city area, and they have a 10-minute up to a maximum radius of 10 minutes, and the bulk majority of them live in that 7, 8, 9, 10-minute range. it's going to affect response time, whereas before when you had a full-time staff of 7 people, and that's the other thing about the last, when they talked about 80% of the time, 70% of the time, they only had 5 full-time firefighters. Well, they used to have 7 for years and years and years. Well, when you had 7 firefighters, they could do out the door just like that. Well, they've had 5 in recent months, year or so, whatever, approximately. That's cut into that, of course. So, I mean, it's a little bit, I think, unfair to say that in some ways because you haven't had the full-time staffing either. But
Can I just go, and I
Yes.
want to try helping you out, because Mr. Holmes done.
everybody wants to.
He done a wonderful job explaining that at the Fire
Right.
Advisory Board.
I understand
You
that.
came 6 minutes late to that board and
Like I
never
said-
said a word, and they had an open forum there to ask those questions.
I have no doubt you're going to make it work the best you can make a paid-on-call department
Okay.
work.
Okay.
But I
just
still think
wanna-
there's going to be consequences and
Yeah.
ramifications.
I'm not arguing, I know those questions got to be answered by Mr. Holmes.
So that's all I wanted to say. So
Well, Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
let me respond to him that we appreciate
Yes.
that you come and talk with us, because we will need you, and we will need all of the townships that work with us to make this work.
well, and
So
I'm
please know that we do appreciate it, and this won't work without everybody trying to pitch in and put out their ideas, suggestions, and things to make it work. So, thank you. I do thank
right,
you.
and I appreciate that. I guess would try to say I don't think all the townships are in favor of the restructuring necessarily either, or at least all the or all the people on all the township boards. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a unanimous thing.
This
And-
was very tough, I think, for all of us. It was not a fun vote. It wasn't a fun vote.
No,
at all.
I don't envy you on that either. So
But we need you, and we hope you'll stay and work with us.
thank you.
One question I
you.
have, because you got a meeting, do you want Mr. Threen tomorrow night be at the meeting, and Mr. Holmes, and be on there and discuss these questions that you have for us so that we can answer them? We do want you as a partner, and we want to be as clear as possible.
I guess this item is on our agenda for tomorrow night. If you want to do that, you're certainly welcome to do that.
Okay,
And we do have it on our agenda because it's come up, of course,
okay.
obviously.
Well, then,
so.
thank you so much for that. And
Thank you.
was anybody invited off your agenda, or you just put it on the agenda? Did you invite?
We've had it, we had a committee meeting on Wednesday, and we've put together our agenda, most of it then,
Okay.
last week. So, I mean, we put that on there because, of course, it was in the paper,
Yeah.
and it's been on what you guys did, of course, and then, of course, Carol brought back the report. Of course, so did I, because I was there. Of course, I got the paperwork and everything that went with it, explained to everybody what was going on, so
I want
whatever.
to thank you, and I'm asking these questions because we can't answer what we want to answer
I
here.
thought that was only 3 to 4 minutes.
Yes, very well done, Mr. Threen.
Liberties.
Come again, don't be
Yeah.
a stranger.
Is there anybody else? Anybody else? Then we'll close the public forum, and I want to thank Mr. Durham again. Now we'll go to the staff reports, the written. They were all presented, Mr. Eric? Waring?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an update or a follow-up on the fire department restructuring again. As you know, the
can hardly-
negotiations team has been meeting with the full-time firefighters union, and I was informed that this afternoon we received a response to a proposal about layoff terms, and I guess I might suggest that the council amend the agenda tonight. We would have authority to go into closed session to discuss that, those proposed terms, and, discuss what the appropriate response is. So,
We have a motion, and can you explain how that motion what it should
yeah,
say?
it would be a motion to go into well, first of all, you'd amend your agenda tonight to add this item.
Okay.
I know we already have a closed session, but this would be a separate closed session. And it would be pursuant to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Section 13D.03 for labor negotiation strategy.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I ask Eric, do you believe this is your suggestion is the appropriate route, or what has occurred has been there's a strategy committee that it has worked with it and then brings things back to the council? Which do you think this idea that you're putting forth is the preferable idea?
I do, because of I guess, timeliness of things in order to keep the process moving forward.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
make a motion to amend our agenda to add another closed session.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, a second by Hilgard. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Eric. Any other staff reports? Go ahead, Jeff.
If I can, Mr. President, I should have had this on my agenda for information purposes, but I wanted to make the council aware that the consultant team for the airport utility extension project is on the agenda for Oaklawn Township. They're meeting tomorrow evening to review with the township the status of the utility extension, some of the issues and impacts on township residents as that construction is going forward. So there will be some staff and consultants out there at that meeting tomorrow.
Thank you so much for that report. Any more staff reports?
I have nothing. The only thing I have is our open house on Thursday. Just want to invite everyone to attend that at 5 o'clock.
Thank you. And you're going to be at Oaklawn tomorrow night? Okay, thank you. Item number 13 would be council member and other committee reports. Committee reports? Anybody? Go ahead, Mary.
Quickly, this Friday, the 9th of October at 11 in the morning, our little subcommittee on the GESP project are meeting in Bemidji with members of their staff. And Bemidji was one of the first, if not the first city in Minnesota to use this program, and they used it very successfully. And so we decided that perhaps we could build on their success. So arrangements have been made, and I'm not certain who all is going. Jeff, I think, our administrator, perhaps Connie, hoping someone from the public utilities, because they would be very much, or could be very much involved. Gabe and me, I think that is about it. But at any rate, hopefully we'll come back with some good information and that we can move forward with this. We are waiting. The state has to review our information and let us know how eligible we are. But I think we are likely going to be eligible. So we're proceeding along that line anyway. And then also on another subject, Administrator Thoreen and I met with the Finance Committee of the Crow Wing County Board about a week and a half ago to raise the issue of the help for the reimbursement with the airport security. And they had some good and probing questions that we're trying to research and ideas. So at this point, we don't have an answer for it. But we can't let this drop. If hopefully they will buy into what was the original premise of the Crow Wing County Brainerd Airport, that it was 50-50. We shared in the cost. Hopefully they will review some of the material and buy into that. If not, we'll have to look at all the alternatives because it is getting so costly that I don't see how we can
One of the things I was going to ask Mary when you do meet again is all the permits and fees go to the county for all the construction that goes on out there, and I know there's a pretty good sized project coming up, and because it's in Oaklawn Township and they file all their fees with the county benefits tremendously on the fees and the construction that it does. And this project we're going to do is going to bring a boom to the area, so they will get quite a bit of revenue from that we're helping by bringing the sewer and water up there. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Gary.
With that, any other committees? Go ahead, Sue.
We met, Chip and I, with the airport extension project management team meeting this last week, and the consultant just came into the audience, so I didn't know if he had anything he wanted to say, but I did want to mention that we did meet for an update, and that the next thing will be the meeting with the township coming up. And they're looking to make the project fit the
Thank you. Any other committees? Then item number 14 will be committee recommendation, and this will be for Mr. Dan Hegstad, Brainerd Parks and Rec Board, term to expire 12/31/2016, so it's 1 year. And
Second.
we have a motion by Johnson, a second by Hilgard. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. The next motion will be item number 15, to adjourn to closed session pursuant to MS 13D.05 and 13D.03, subdivision 3C, for the purpose of discussing negotiation strategies for property and easement acquisitions and for the fire
So
department.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We will now go into closed session.
I know.